Hiring managers, what is the biggest red flag on a resume? Asterisk asterisk attention. Asterisk asterisk if you plan to give examples of a bad/inappropriate email address on a resume, do not post an email address, even if it's obviously fake. Rather use something like childish email here, otherwise your comment will not be seen. We do not allow any type of personal information, even if it's supposed to be fake. See Rule N4 for more details. Thanks. Asterisk I'm a bot, and this action was performed automatically. Please contact the moderators of this subreddit, /message/compose/to=r/askreddit if you have any questions or concerns. I saw some guy who HSD posted in the "have you been arrested" part put the reason he was arrested, killed a man by dropping a boulder on his head. Checked it out online, and he was telling the truth. When I was about 14 to 15ish, my dad kinda pushed me to apply for a translating job at Sega, good English. I needed a CV to apply, so my dad helped me make one. He told me to put my favorite games on my resume, and my dumbass not only agreed, but answered honestly, without a single Sega game on the top 5 list I made. This man is now a manager of 20 plus years. So I'm reading a lot of the same ideas and frustrations over and over here. What is someone supposed to do when they are dealing with a work gap? Do they tell the truth and hope it works out, or do they ignore it and hope to be hired? I had to leave my dream job at the year mark due to health reasons I can't disclose to an employer, and I'd like some direct guidance on what to do in order to be hired again, now that I have a better handle on things. Edit. I'm pretty blown away by all of your comments and really solid advice. I hope all benefit from seeing that there are so many of us living through this topic right now, and that there are ways back into good meaningful employment. To the hiring managers and hiring professionals who stop to advise and assist, thank you. Your insight is invaluable at a really hard time for both myself and many others. When people apply through Facebook Jobs, and it pulls the info from their profile, you end up with shit, like "went to the University of Life" or "I only work for me and no one else," as a headline on their application. It's hard to take that seriously. I'm the kind of manager who will go for someone with less experience if they have a good interview. Obviously you need to check some things off experience-wise, customer service, data entry etc, but I know most people can learn on the job. One thing I despise in resume or cover letter is crowded wording and minimal gaps. I don't need to see your work history from your McDonald's days at 14. I need to see the last 5 if it's relevant to the job. Does anyone have any advice for the people who have never had a job? Military service. US Army wife, Lieutenant Colonel. Edit. I feel I should clarify. I'm not a hiring manager. This story is from one that I know. I've had experience dealing W/depender, though. If this phrase is written anywhere. My chickens have come home to roost. I once got a resume that listed under his award section champion and master of the chug and tug at some dumbass ASU fraternity whose name I can't remember. I'm still not 100% certain what the fuck that is, but I know I didn't want it. Listing every single accomplishment from high school and or middle school when you've been out of high school for 10 plus years. Had a guy list every part he got in a musical/play, sports he played, with scores, clubs he was a part of, etc. All of these dated from at least elementary school on. The man was 50 plus. The job had nothing to do with any of these items. I once had a guy submit a resume saying that he could not work with women or speak to any woman due to religious reasons. I'm all for being tolerant of other people's beliefs, but this was for a customer service job. If you can't interact with women at all, then maybe this wasn't the kind of job he should have been applying for. Doesn't stop me from hiring anyone, but changes things up when someone says they speak another language. If it's Spanish, you'll be interviewed in Spanish. Sometimes that goes very poorly for the applicant. Not an employer, but failed miserably to get a high school job. I thought I was doing everything right. I mentioned previous volunteer experience, work ethic, and always came dressed in a button-up shirt, slacks, and a tie for interviews, or even asking about a job. After a year of getting turned down by Taco Bell, KFC, and really any good high school job, I found the issue. Under the previous criminal charges section I put assault and battery. 17-year-old me had a loose grasp on the legal system and didn't realize that getting arrested for a fight is not the same as being charged with a felony. I had been arrested on an assault misdemeanor, but never charged. Unfortunately, that revelation didn't come until I applied for military service and was told my felony charge was a permanent disqualification. I was a manager at a trampoline park when I was 16/17 and did all the interviews since the majority of the applicants went to the same high school as me. There was a guy that was in his late 30s who had hardly any job experience and a bachelor's degree. I like it was literature related. His age was kinda weird since most the staff were in high school/college, but having a degree completely caught me off guard. Asked him why he wanted to work minimum wage when he had a degree. He explained that he was going to be a teacher, but they wouldn't hire him because of his criminal history. He proceeded to tell me he had sexually assaulted a child. He was applying for a job at a kid's trampoline park. Looked on the cameras before he left, since he gave me a real bad feeling, and saw him taking pictures of kids. He left before I could confront him, so I gave his resume and a hard drive with the entire recording of his visit to the local police department. Edit. Obligatory thank you for the award. Edit 2. Thank you everyone. If you have any questions I'd be happy to answer, but it might take a bit for me to get through everyone. I interview an Indian guy who had surfing the internet and shooting pistols as his hobbies. I wanted to hire him on the spot to be our wildcard. The guy who applied for a design job and attached a photoshopped image of him as a centaur comes to mind. Also typus. I was hiring a very senior level person who seemed like they could do an amazing job, but there were several typos on her resume. I asked the recruiter to let her know. Edit for clarification. The question what about red flags? Not why did you throw out a perfectly good resume for petty reasons. Neither of the resumes were tossed. The centaur replied at a time we had no open positions and the typo person got the interview, and after a rigorous hiring process was determined to have great skills, but not what we needed. The typo person misspelled her very large font and easy to spell job title. And of course my most upvoted comment on Reddit is about a guy who sent a photoshopped image of him as a centaur along with his resume. People keep saying gaps in work history, but honestly guys, make sure you inquire about it before just writing someone off. I had a guy who had a year or two gap in his resume. Most people would just write this dude as well, obviously there's something wrong with him. Well, there was. The dude was diagnosed with brain cancer and had to go through intensive treatment. He lived but came out the other end jobless. Couldn't find work afterwards because of the gap. I could tell he was a smart dude who just had a bad hand of cards. He was hired, and he's honestly worked out great and still works at that company. I wasn't an actual manager my old firearms retail job, but being that I was the senior sales associate, my manager included my input in the hiring process, which entailed a lot of resume reviews. We had a guy in his late teens/early 20s drop off a resume for an open gunsmith position. He had no technical training, no gunsmith training, and had never even owned a gun before. He had recently joined the National Guard, and his only experience with firearms was basic orientation and cleaning of the M16 in basic training. His resume basically said just this. In one Runan sentence, his resume explained that he had no idea how to write a resume and had no training in gunsmithing, but that he needed a job, was interested in guns, so please disregard all this and give him a job because he was serving his country. I've seen someone put their certificate of baptism under certificates and awards. Edit. Wow, I didn't expect this comment. to garner this sort of response. Maybe I should add that the job had absolutely nothing to do with religion, which is why the baptism cert seemed so out of place. A watermark of their face on each page of a resume. Edit. This was in Canada for a food retail position. Also thanks for the awards and upvotes. This is now by far my most upvoted post. I have a certificate of knighthood, or whatever, from Sealand. I like to think that would at least pique a potential employer's interest, but am not currently willing to risk it. Edit. I appreciate the correction. It's late here. One thing I've always wondered, often ask a person looking for a job how the interview went, and I'm always told how great it went. Then no call back. A hiring manager's just making the applicant feel good at the moment about how the interview went, or the person I'm asking just reading the situation wrong. Either way, very depressing. Lies. I'm that hiring manager that'll dig into the weird shit. You're interviewing for an enterprise software job, but list Unity third on there? Let's dig in. You're interviewing for a React gig, but for some reason list Raspberry Pi projector control Kegerator. Let's talk about that one. You wrote a Minecraft plugin? Okay, let's figure that out. I figure the weirder the thing on the resume is, the higher the chance you were passionate about it. If you aren't, then you're probably not being truthful about much else. This isn't the end all be all, of course. Not everyone even has weird totally unrelated to the job stuff on their resume. But if you do, remember, it's fair game. Written like a 4th grader. Reason for leaving: too much drama,